In Scarlet Town, where I was born, there was a fair maid dwelling.
This is part 3 of The Werewolf and the Hitchhiker. This is Werewolf the podcast, and this is Wil, your werewolf. I hope you listen to the other 2 parts of the series before you listen to this.
I also need a pee.
She embarrassingly admitted.
These heated seats make it an imperative.
She laughed. An imperative, huh? I smiled and laughed. We pulled into the car park and prepared to dash through the snow. She made to get out as I did, but I told her to wait while I got the umbrella out the back of the car. This also actually let the posit out of the back seat. He sometimes likes it if if I act like he has a physical presence. I mean, he could have just walked out of the car if he wanted to, but he quite likes it if I let him out. I walked up to the vehicle's passenger side to shield her from the incoming snow. On opening the door, I took in a beautiful sight. There in the seat was this tousled redhead with deep green pools for eyes, sitting in my clothes and smiling at me. She was beautiful to the core, and the beast inside switched off as I looked at her with, I believe it's called empathy? I think that is it. I wanted to take care of her. Weird. She looked up and spoke.
No one's ever done anything like this for me before. Is this what it's like to be looked after by a gentleman?
She asked. There was no banter from her. The question was genuine and it made me smile and feel appreciated. It brought me a new warmness. My posit sat by me, staring at me, shaking its lolloping head, and just simply said, "Fuck's sake." Her socks and shoes were wet and sat discarded in the passenger's footwell of the car. She sat with feet bared and chewing on her lower lip and shrugged at me. "What the fuck is going on, Wil?" asked Fen with a laugh. I smiled at her, and a lot was communicated between us without any actual words. I gave her the umbrella handle and physically lifted her out of the car. I then set off and carried her in my arms to the buildings. She was giggling and snuggling into my shoulder. She was so light and so delicate, I was actually scared to hurt her. What the fuck was going on? Oh shit, I think I cared. Oh shit, I cared. This was too much. My posit roared into me. His frustration had become more than apparent, and he had to act on my behalf in his mind. I transmuted into the beast, half man and half wolf, and uncaring of the view of others, I tore into the small body in my arms. I could not allow myself to care for anyone or anything. Rule 1 of the werewolf: I do not care. Having something that I could care for and others could hurt is not something that can be allowed in my world. I tore her apart, her screams replaced by silence. I bit into an ate, then threw the remains of her carcass on the floor and raised my arms to the sky. I let forth my roar. My anger was released into the heavens. My hatred shone to a non-existent god in my fury. I would show the costs I will endure to be me in this horror show of a world. Again I shook my head from a daydream. My dreaming had excited me, and I felt my pulse and breathing rate rise as I considered killing this small piece of insignificant perfection, leaving her as a red stain on the virginal white snow. These dreams had got me out of the car park and into the very posh shopping part of the House of Brewer. The House of Brewer is all posh brands. They call it the Harrods of the Highlands, which I suppose it almost is apart from the accents. Can you imagine me walking into this posh place? This gorgeous older man with a young girl in my arms. I was dressed in the very height of style. Perfection in casual dress, black Levi's and crisp black shirt tailored to my muscular body. This beautiful young woman was dressed in oversized clothes in my arms and no shoes. The staff present were judging us very judgingly with a side order of judginess. I liked the fact that we were both reveling in the attention. I could tell without any chat that we were gonna have lots of fun in here. I placed her bare feet on the ground. I put her down gently, allowing her to feel the security of the strength in my arms. She never took her eyes from my face. She stared deep into my own eyes. I could sense the thanks that she did not voice. "Okay, Sally. I would love you to choose whatever you want from here. I want you to have whatever you want." She looked around and smiled.
I can't afford any of this. I'm a Primark girl. These are things you see on Instagram and stuff. That's Versace and that's Gucky.
A helpful helper came to help and caught the end of our conversation. She obviously felt that she would pass comment.
Oh, my dear, it's pronounced Gucci. That's how you say it, darling.
The helper looked at me to share a pitying look about poor Sally's lack of knowledge. I turned to her and told Sally, not breaking eye contact with the lady. Yeah, Gucky is okay. I smiled at Sally, showing her whose side I was on. Don't worry about the cost. I will cover what you need. All that stuff in your suitcase is soaked through. Get yourself enough stuff for a couple of weeks. Go on, just enjoy.
Fuck off, really?
I smiled in response.
Fuck yeah!
She yelled and did that fast feet thing that youngsters seem to do in celebration, and then kissed me on the cheek. At this point, the once hot middle-aged lady with the perfect hair, perfect makeup, and a real lack of judgment tusked again.
Can I help you?
She asked and looked me up and down with a very impolite pause.
Sir.
Yes, another fucking Karen, according to her name badge. Yes, Karen, I think you will be perfect for this. These types are all fucking Karens. This young lady here needs a new wardrobe. I want you to help her get whatever she wants. I mean, whatever she wants. Is that okay? I asked the Karen, who held a false smile. The thin line smile was held on that mouth, but doubt was sewn into the lines around her eyes. I could sense her lack of belief, and my posit stood behind her, leering, growling and drooling over her costly pink tweed two-piece suit. I slowly reached towards her face and formed just a single finger as my index claw. I am getting pretty good at this partial transformation thing. The claw extended towards the woman's face, who started shaking and didn't move. Fear affects people in different ways. This was the freeze response. I jabbed the claw deep into her eye, and she fell before me on the ground. No screams, just crumpled silence. Again I shook my head free from my wandering mind, and I smiled at the two-eyed woman before me. I enjoy these little escapist thoughts. Thank you, I said. Sally, ignorant of all this, was in heaven. Her mouth was held open, and she was openly delighted to be just wandering around this place. She was still in bare feet, swinging her arms and imbibing the atmosphere of the building. The perfect girl had the innocent manner of a child in a sweet shop, and was running around from display to display, holding items up to her body, then carefully returning them to exactly how she got them, with the care she would give to the most precious things she could imagine. Karen now looked me up and down and refreshed that false smile. She then looked over at Sally and looked her up and down. I grabbed her by the throat and dragged her so that her eyes were level with mine. Her feet dangled from the ground and she grunted as her face turned a pleasant purple colour. I squeezed a little harder, then I crushed her neck and smiled at her. I looked at Sally, who now stood hands raised to her screaming face. Karen's following sentence brought me back to reality.
Okay, we'll do what we can. You do realise how expensive this particular establishment is, don't you?
She straightened a few loose hairs back into her perfect hairdo.
Sir?
She smiled with crossed arms and a gently tapping right toe. I nodded and smiled and reached into my pocket and drew out my wallet. The rich black leather was delightful and gave the promise of the item that I needed. I mean, the only thing that this woman would understand was the power of the credit card. I looked at her and motioned with my eyes towards the hidden contents of the wallet. I then gracefully drew out my black standard credit card. I held it between my middle and forefinger as I waved it at the Karen. Her eyes lit up at this reveal of unquestionable wealth. The black credit card showed her I was, well, very rich. Here you go. I want you to hold on to this for me, please. I winked at her seductively. Oh, and Karen, please treat yourself to something nice as well. A beautiful woman needs beautiful things to adorn her. She blushed with embarrassment and looked at the floor as she soaked in the compliment. Now she knew that I was rich. I had become even vastly more attracted to her, more than just a set of devastatingly good looks. Stroking her neck, she looked at me and stammered a thank you.
Thank you.
Sally at this point flashed a smile and a provocative wink at me. She ran over to Karen and grabbed her hand, dragging her into her wake like a little tugboat leading a majestic liner.
Okay.
Sally stared at the woman's name badge.
Really? Is your name actually Karen? I need boots for the snow. Not hiking boots. Like, I want boots that I don't know, go up to knee, or maybe a bit more. Leather, sexy. Where would you find something like that?
Karen giggled like a small girl as she jogged along with Sally, directing her to the shoe section of the shop. I smiled a deep and comfortable smile while trying to work out how the hell I was enjoying this, because I really was. I looked around for my posit. I could sense his disgust with the whole process. He had wandered over to a display of skins. He'd had a sniff, and he sent me, "Liars, this ain't a reindeer." Sitting down on the comfy couch and man-spreading, I smiled at him and watched little Sally direct her operations. The staff were now falling over themselves to grant her every wish. Every time she tried something, she would come to show me, and I would read off her body language if she wanted me to like it or not. After a couple of hours, she had amassed a large pile of items, and she seemed satisfied with her purchases. The outfit she had chosen to wear made her look a little more mature. She dressed like a country lady, cashmere jumper, knee-high brown boots, nicely cut white jeans and a little waistcoat. There again, with her looks and that smile, she could have looked amazing in a bin bag. She looked regal and like a genuine member of the gentry. She stood before me, side on, her back slightly arched and a goddess's smile.
"Will I do, my lord?"
She questioned with her impression of a very posh accent. Her hands ran down her little body, and her eyes fell to the floor in a playfully seductive manner. "It's all right," I said. "I suppose it'll do. You look all right," I bantered. She laughed and walked towards me with the walk of a model on the catwalk, and whispered just in my hearing,
"I look incredible, you."
And she winked. Once she was satisfied, I handed Karen the PIN code over for the processing at the desk. Karen was very polite and thanked me for the jacket that she had chosen. Karen did have a certain style. Sally stood by me at the counter, her arm linked through mine, smiling up at me. I felt worshipped. This was a different type of worship, though. It wasn't fear. It wasn't fear, it was grateful thanks, and it made me feel warm inside. Oh dear.
"Your daughter has very good taste, Mr.
She checked the card.
Wolf."
I smiled at her. I was 25 years older than Sally, so that it was a likely assumption. Sally laughed.
"Oh, fuck no, Karen, I'm not his daughter."
Karen paused. A smile now fused on her face as she looked me up and down with a bit of disapproval. Sally brought her hand to shield her mouth and hide the whispered sentence that only Karen and I could hear.
"Fen's my guardian angel and lover. He was sent from heaven to protect and look after me. Unlike my father, he cares and strives to support me, make me happy. And unlike my father, he only hurts me when I want him to. Fen is such an understanding lover. He puts my pleasure before his own. He has a little trick with his pinky finger and my asshole. Oh, it makes me come so hard. I mean, so fucking hard, Karen, honestly. I mean, the things he can do with his mouth. Oh my god, I'm getting wet just thinking about it. Fen, can we please do the sex when we get in the car?"
She looked at me, jumping up and down, acting the part of a desperate woman, her hand raised to her forehead in an overdramatic display. She turned back to Karen, winked and smiled. Karen had now gone bright red and was busy pretending that the conversation did not turn her on. I mean, who could blame her? Two beautiful people before her talking about sex. I sensed the musty smell of her getting wet in front of me and the adrenaline flowing in her body. Karen was very horny and not getting any at home. Keeping eye contact with the woman, Sally reached for and touched her hand. Karen did not withdraw. What the sent the thoughts my posit. Sally then turned and winked at me out of the sight of Karen and asked,
Hey Fen, let's invite Karen to join us. Bet she's fucking mental in bed. Come on, can we? Please.
just in the earshot of Karen. I nodded. Of course we can, dear, I said, squeezing her hand, but you have to remember that not everyone is sex positive, so don't be disappointed if Karen says no. She smiled and nodded and kissed me on the cheek again, and then turned to Karen once again, holding both the woman's hands.
Karen, I know you don't know us very well, but I feel there's a bit of chemistry here. You want to join us for a night?
Karen just stood in a catatonic state, her mouth hanging open, her face flushed, going bright red. She smiled, her eyes sinking to the floor. Her body language was about comforting herself as she rubbed her wrists. Sally remained holding Karen's hands as their eyes met.
Please, Karen, say yes to me. Say yes to Fen. Let's live for the now, not the future. Who knows what tomorrow will bring?
Karen then smiled at Sally.
I actually finish work at 5 p.m,
she said as she turned away, slowly releasing Sally's hand. We both held Karen's eye contact until she fully turned away and flounced as she walked with her back to us. She felt like $1 million right now. We had made her life. I turned and looked at Sally. She turned and looked at me. I grabbed her hand and a load of shopping bags and we both ran to the door. At the door we started to laugh. The laughter was so hard that we had to sit down to get some relief from it. People stared and looked disgruntled, but we didn't care. We just sat there and let the outflow happen. What was that, Sally? What did you just do there? I said in between laughing bouts.
I made that woman's day. Look at us, Fen. We're fucking gorgeous. And she thinks we're going to be sleeping with her. She's going to be sitting there all day feeling bloody incredible.
She replied. And the threesome thing? I asked. That was shocking and genius at the same time.
I don't know. It just seemed the most inappropriate thing to say.
I liked Sally. I liked her a lot. Picking up the bags, I called on the posit to follow, and we went into the food hall to get her a meal. That's the end of the episode. There is a link to the newly formed group in the description below. There is my Twitter handle, there's my book, and everything else in life. Thanks for listening. Bye.